We have big news potentially in the next couple of days. We have the President of the United States going to Alaska. And then just announced before we came on air is that there's a second meeting now. So the first meeting will just be the president and Mr. Putin and maybe Bessent. I'm not sure, but there's a couple, somebody else from, anyway, the first meeting though is Putin and the US only, but now there's a second meeting that will include Zelensky and maybe some of the European members of NATO in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds like we're going to hear, there's going to be some serious conversations this weekend. If the negotiations turn out well, if we get a ceasefire and the beginning of actual serious peace talks, what happens to the market?
That would be so a ceasefire. I think people wouldn't believe it at first. So there's been a few ceasefires during the war already, and Russia has broken all of them. I think there's been some where Ukraine has had ceasefires, but I think they'd be skeptical at first, but I do think it would be positive as time went on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, generally speaking, we'd think that. I was wondering whether all of the conversations.
I'm just a little skeptical. So I do think it's good that Europe would be attending. They don't want to be left out of the talks. They don't want the US involved in talks. They want to be them, Ukraine, and Russia. They don't want the US involved. There's parts of Europe that seem to want this war to keep going on. So they may just be against some kind of peace deal.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but it seems like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that could be true. Of course, there are people in Europe that think that Zelensky should be able, or that Ukraine should be.
And the reason I'm making this claim is they're against Trump brokering a peace.
Yeah. And they also think that Ukraine should be in NATO.
Right. That may happen after the war anyway. So, yeah, I know that's a touchy subject, but they kind of need to have protection after the war is over.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the final way that this all turns out is relevant to me as an individual, but in terms of an investor, in terms of looking at markets, the biggest thing I think would be that the war would stop, and that actual peace and stop really.
Yeah.
And that actual peace negotiations would be entered into that have some evidence that they are possibly going to get to a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And one would look at that as a positive, I think.
Yeah, I think that would be a positive for sure.